What is going on with China and Russia and the US dollar? What's a BRIC nation, and what could all this mean for the US, more specifically, you? Let's talk about it. What's up everyone, Jordan here, and in this video I'm going to give you a reasonable understanding about what is a world reserve currency, petrodollar, the Petroyuan, and the potential issues or consequences of the shift that all this could mean from the US to global economy. Alright, so what's a BRICS nation? What does that even mean? So BRICS is a group of countries starting with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and now South Africa. And they're all ditching the US dollar or transitioning away from the US dollar as not just a world reserve currency that they would need or use, but also in investments in making major purchases internationally.
A lot of countries, whether it's China, it's India, they're all trying to diversify, get off the dollar standard.
So you may be thinking that this is something new. These groups of countries just got together recently, but actually they met in New York back in 2006. And in 2009, they actually had their official summit in Russia. So two things I want to explain here. I'll give you more of an understanding of what's really at the heart here, or the core here of what's happening. So first, it's the world reserve currency. So currently, the US or the US dollar is the world reserve currency. That means most countries, if not all countries, transact with other countries or make large purchases in US dollars. So that means that they have to hold a lot of US dollars on hand to make purchases in oil or large investments like that. So how did that happen? How did the US dollar become the world reserve currency? So this actually dates back to the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944, which established the US dollar as a world reserve currency and pegged its value to gold, and giving the US dollar stability and credibility. However, the Bretton Woods system collapsed due to a combination of factors, including the rising inflation in the US and increasing pressure on the US to finance the Vietnam War. The US eventually abandoned the gold standard. Despite this, the US dollar remained the dominant reserve currency in part due to the emergence of the petrodollar system, which is our second point. But this is more specific to oil. The petrodollar system refers to the US dollar's dominant position in the oil market. This system began in the 1970s when the US made a deal with Saudi Arabia that the oil would be sold exclusively in US dollars. And there's two ways the US benefits. So one, it allows the US to print more dollars, and the US is printing more dollars. The demand for the US dollar becomes greater. And number two, it helps to maintain the value of the US dollar as countries need to hold US dollars on hand. So what does that have to do with your BRICS countries? So like I mentioned earlier, the countries want to get off of the petrodollar. They want to go establish a new reserve currency that doesn't rely on the US. These countries have done a few things to push this initiative. So in 2013, the countries developed a new bank called New Development Bank. So they established this bank to reduce the dependence on developing countries on Western-dominated financial institutions like your Goldman Sachs, your JP Morgan. It's developing a bank that separates from having to require financing from your normal Western or US or European banks. So China has been actually developing the Petroyuan to combat the US and the trade of oil. The Petroyuan has been intended to make a dent US's dominance of the oil market in using their dollars. Many major oil suppliers have begun accepting oil payments in yuan. A few other countries have also engaged in non-US dollar trades. So now there's starting to be a major shift from transacting solely in US dollars to being able to transact in other currencies, potentially chip away at the US dollar's role in the world reserve currency. However, there's still some things in the way. Doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. More specifically, China's currency is still weaker compared to the dollar, and the potential economic impact of oil exporting countries like Saudi Arabia may not want to feel that impact just yet. All right, so what can go wrong? What are some consequences that could occur or may potentially occur to where the dollar starts to lose its value because of the demand of the US dollar across the world and why it needs to be used But that could also mean a lot of things for you and me as US citizens, because if the value of the dollar decreases, the cost of buying things, in other words, inflation, becomes greater because our dollar could decrease over time. This could also mean a decline in the confidence of the US dollar, not just nationwide, but abroad, where normally the dollar is a safe haven for countries and it's safe to put your money in US dollars. All right, well, ultimately, the future of this, no one really knows for certain. You have economists and you have people that, and you may think, this could happen. It could happen far 10 decades down the road. No one really knows at this point what could happen or what the impact could be. In my opinion, it's not an issue at this moment, but it could be down the road. Okay, so what should we do here? Of course, this isn't financial advice, but protect you, protect your investments, protect your portfolio. The best thing I would recommend is to stay informed, stay on your articles and your news, and making sure you're following and understanding what's happening, and just think out to the future and what that impact can have in the future for you and your family. Thanks for watching the video. If you want me to go in deeper in any of these topics, tell me what you feel below in the comments, what you're planning to do about it, or what your thoughts on it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and see you in the next one.